In this episode of the Cultivate Beauty podcast, we have a very special guest coming on to talk about why we shouldn't depend solely on social media to build our client base and some ways to go about doing that, and how to attract the ideal client base and setting our prices to reflect that. Welcome to the Cultivate Beauty podcast. I am your host, Kelly Torrance, and this is a show where we come together and have some honest conversations about what it's really like to work, grow, thrive, and survive in the beauty industry. My guests and topics are all people and things related to what's happening right now in our salons, behind the chair, in the treatment room, in our beauty schools, in our training facilities, at the state board level, and beyond. I'm going to be covering all scopes of beauty. So if you're ready to help me cultivate a fun-loving, passionate group of informed professionals, then please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to this episode of the Cultivate Beauty podcast, where today's guest, Miss Sarah, is the owner of the Lash Collection. She has been in the industry for a little bit longer than me. So she's got some great things to talk about and to share with everyone. For everyone who is new to the industry, you might want to take some notes. Sarah's got some great advice to give with you. Take it away, Miss Sarah. Please introduce yourself. Let us know what you do in the industry, how long you've been in the industry, and what you're wanting to do in the future.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Kelly. So first and foremost, I am a lash artist. So I've been a lash artist since 2008 when I became completely obsessed with eyelash extensions from the moment I learned about them. And I've been obsessed ever since. So I don't know how long that is, quite a long time, probably over 15 years. So I opened the first lash only salon in Atlanta, Georgia back in 2010. I created my own brand called the Lash Collection in 2011. I am an Elibana distributor and educator. And like I said, I'm still a lash artist. I still see a handful of clients every week because I'm still obsessed. I still love doing it. And I love connecting with the few clients that I have into my space. I just really love it still. So, yeah.
How did you get started with lash extensions?
It was really, really new back in 2008. I had signed up for a course and there weren't even enough people for them to have the course. So they canceled it.
Oh my gosh.
It was just, nobody was doing it at the time, but I did find this, online like web forum back in the day about eyelash extensions. And I basically went back to, it was like 99 pages. And I went back to like page 99 and read every single thread and comment, like stayed up all night, just for multiple nights, like reading everything I could about eyelash extensions, and then eventually was able to take my course. And I really just started practicing on models in my spare bedroom. Like that's where my business really began. And I think that was the perfect way to get started in lashes. Back then it cost probably, I think $2,500 for me to take my beginner course. There were not a lot of options available. And so it was a big investment. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm just going to set up some space in my spare bedroom and get started practicing on models. And that's really where it all began.
And at what point did you feel like, all right, I'm ready to take this from the spare bedroom of my home to this new location?
Well, I practiced for 3 months straight for about 5 to 6 days a week for free. So I know that's not common these days, but for me, I knew there was one other lash artist in town and I knew what she was charging. And I told myself, I need to be able to charge that much and I can't have any excuses why mine aren't as good. And so I practiced, like I said, literally every day for 3 months. And then I started looking just for a small space. I'm not someone who is like, I'm going to take on a big loan and open up this huge storefront from the beginning. That just was not for me because I didn't want to have that kind of stress.
Right.
So I just rented a space in a spa just a couple days a week where it was like, they're not using the room on those days. And then I continued working at my other job as a makeup artist as I slowly built my clientele. And then eventually got a bigger space and a bigger space and, so, yeah.
I love that. I started off in the beauty industry as a makeup artist too.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, and I was introduced to lash extensions as a makeup artist, but my only real that I knew experience of lash extensions were the really bad ones where I'm trying to do
Oh,
someone's makeup and they're like falling off.
yeah, yeah,
And I was like, no, what is this lash extension thing? I don't want anything
yeah.
to do with it. And then my makeup clients were, what do you know about lash extensions? Who do you know that does lash extensions? I'm like,
Ah,
I don't know if you know what those are because what I've seen are pretty bad. And then a fellow makeup artist asked me to help her with some blending. And I was like, dang, your lashes are incredible. And she's like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
they're extensions. And I'm like, this is what they're supposed to look like?
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
need to learn this.
yeah.
That's so cool. And how long were you a makeup artist for before getting into
Ooh,
lashing?
I mean, I started working at the Clinique counter when I was like 18 years old or
Hmm.
19 years old. So I started working, doing that, if you want to call it that, back
Hmm.
then. And then I was actually a professional dancer for many, many years as well. And I kind of just dabbled in makeup on the side and then eventually
Yeah.
said, I've got to quit dancing, like my feet. So I traded in fit problems for neck problems,
You
basically.
know,
But yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh, this is too hard on my feet. Let me do makeup. And then eventually it led into lashes. So
and you're not the first beautician in your family, right?
no. So my mom had a hair salon in our basement in Illinois when I
Hmm.
was growing up. And then my grandmother had a hair salon. She called it her breezeway, just a little room in her house in
Hmm.
Illinois as well. So I'm third generation beauty
Okay.
industry, which I'd never planned on it or
Hmm.
expected. I don't, even though they had their little businesses in the house, it was more of like a side hobby type thing for them. I
Uh-huh.
don't come from a family of like entrepreneurs or even college educated people myself. I
Hmm.
didn't go to college. I just kind of fell into it and then just kept going.
Just
So
found your
I,
calling.
yeah. And I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of people in the beauty industry like that. And I think that's what's so challenging for so
Hmm.
many people, especially when they're new, is like they're creative or they love beauty, but they don't have an MBA. And so they don't know a lot of the stuff that there is to know about business.
Hmm. Yeah, there's the whole business side of having a business that
Yeah.
artistry doesn't quite.
Yes,
It
which
just does
I
not
love
fit
that
a
part.
business.
I love it. I love
I
the
do
business
too.
side, but there are a lot of people that don't, and I totally get that.
Now, when you started going, you went from makeup artist to lash extension artist. How did you find your clients? Social media wasn't huge back in 2008. I know when I started, social media was used more to be social and talk about your life. It wasn't necessarily like push business or promote.
Yeah.
So, how did you build your client base?
Yeah, referrals for sure, hands down. So it was all about referrals. At that time, you're right, social media wasn't huge, and lashes at that time were actually pretty new. And so
Yeah.
my clientele, they were like, "Ooh, this is my little secret. Like I look really good, and nobody really even knows what this is yet." And but they would refer like their close friends to me. So
Mhm.
referrals were just a huge way of building my business, which I always encourage lash artists to jump on that referral train because those are going to be your best clients.
Mhm. Yeah, your loyal clients, the ones that want all their friends and family to go where they go and experience what they experience.
Yeah, and if you've got some clients that are coming to you right now that are like your like most perfect ideal client, you're just like, oh my god, I want like 100 more of these, right? That's that client. It's more than just having a referral program. You got to come up with a referral program, but then you have to ask your clients for referrals. I think that's a big thing where lash artists miss out is like they might send out an email or they might have a little sign or they might mention it like, oh, I have a
Hmm.
referral thing. And your client is, oh, nice. And then they walk out the door and it's like
Right.
life is happening out there.
Right.
Yeah. And they're not thinking about it. And so asking your most, like, pick your most favorite clients and start asking them personally, like, hey, I have a few slots open in my books and I would love to have a few more clients. Do you have any friends that have been asking about lashes or think they've
Hmm.
been wanting to get their lashes done? Like, have this conversation with your clients while you're doing your lashes. Their eyes are closed. They
I'm not going
kind of,
anywhere.
yeah, exactly. But they start thinking, oh yeah, my friend that I play tennis with or pickleball, I guess, she's been asking about my lashes. And then personally ask her, I would love to have some of your friends come in and ask for the referral and let them know what your referral program is. That's so much more effective than just a generic sign or email or just, a generic statement of, oh, I have a
Yeah.
referral program. You have to ask.
Yeah. And birds of a feather flock together. So if you've got
Yes.
one great client, odds are their friends and family are going to be very similar.
It's so true. Absolutely. And
Now,
that's
how did
really
you
the best
find your
way.
ideal client?
Well, I was fortunate that I came from a luxury retail background. So I'd already been doing makeup on my ideal client, which I
Mm-hmm.
describe for me, my sentence for my ideal client is the woman who's willing to spend the money to have it done right. That's my
Love that.
ideal client. And so
Yes.
I already was kind of had tapped into that market in the makeup world. So it was a very natural progression into having those clients as lash clients. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say there's a lot that can go into attracting that ideal client. A whole lot. I coach people on that too. So if anybody wants to have any personal coaching on it, that's on my website. I'll say, it comes down to like the space that you have is so important. How you communicate with your clients, even the type of lashes that you do. There's a lot of different factors, but thinking if you can just get in the head of who is your ideal client, and then imagine, okay, what would she like? What would she be attracted to? And then start building your business around that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is it that you're putting into that overall experience, from the music playing to the
Yes.
lighting to how you prep your service area and treatment bed and all of the little things?
Yes, there's a ton of small details that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just getting into that mindset of not necessarily what you would want. Maybe you're not your ideal client, which is very
Mm-hmm.
hard for people to kind of disassociate that.
Yeah.
But maybe the client that you want to attract isn't going to be like necessarily your BFF. It's going to be a different type of person, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to really think about what are those things that they like. Maybe make a Pinterest board of like, what are things that these women would like?
Yeah.
What would they expect from their experience here?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to put myself in the client's shoes often, because it's really easy for me as a salon owner and the lash artist to feel like I'm at home, to be very comfortable in my space, comfortable at my
Yeah.
salon. But like you said, am I necessarily my ideal client? Not always.
Yeah.
So
Right.
what areas of my space or the little extras I throw into my service can I elevate? And I think it's important to constantly kind of revisit that too from time to time.
It's so true. And you learn over time and it evolves over time. I remember one time
Mm-hmm.
when I finally had my salon, it was this beautiful old home and there was a huge living room out front with a fireplace. And I come from retail, so I was all about like, let's get some retail in here. And I loved it. And I learned over time, like there was a retail line of something that I just fell in love with. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. Cause I love like bows and ruffles and polka dots and like colors and
Uh-huh.
all this stuff. Right. But it's like, that wasn't my clientele. My clientele was more mature than I was. But I brought in some of this retail and it kind of moved, but not really. And then I had to think to myself, like, wait, did I bring this retail in because I think it's cute or because my clients want to buy it? Right. And the answer was,
Right.
I thought it was cute, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily for my clients. And so constantly kind of thinking about and evolving and learning and really just refining, honing in on exactly what that client is going to be like, no brainer. They're going to love everything about everything when they come into my
Yeah.
business. And that takes time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that might be one of the setbacks new artists run into is this rush to have full books and this rush to have
Mm.
a client and this rush to be from beginner to advanced. And it's like there's a lot of steps in between to get to that point. I feel like, I don't know if social media plays into that, but I feel like a lot of new artists, there's just this rush to be bigger and more and all the time.
That's so true. I think social media does play into it because people are mostly posting their successes on social media. I mean,
True.
that's just the reality of it. We all
Mhm.
do, right? I'm not
Yeah.
probably not going to post like my least favorite set of lashes I've done. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? I
I don't
could.
want to
And
promote
sometimes
that.
and sometimes I do because I like to post about like, here's the reality, here's like my
Yeah.
client that I can only put sevens and eights on her because she has like nothing for natural lashes barely. And I'm going to post that to show people. But overall, most people are posting their successes. And I do feel like it makes people forget about everything that goes into it. leading
Yeah.
up to all of that
All
success
the
and the
blood, sweat, and
sacrifices.
tears.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
Yes.
going back to that referral program that you kind of kicked off your lash business with, have you found that you've had to make adjustments to that referral program over time, or have you found something that just works and so it's just stick with it? What's kind of your advice there?
Well, I think I didn't have to do many adjustments to my referral program, but I did at times. And I think it's important that you need to be open to what is working. So if you're doing something and it's not getting you results, then
Yeah.
you do need to look at that. So if you're
Yeah.
not asking for referrals, though, you can't say your referral program isn't working. So there is that. So
True.
you have to personally be asking for them. If you're just like, oh, I have a program and I sent out an email and you think clients are just going to come flooding in. It's not
Right.
quite like that. But I think, yeah, being able to, this is probably one of the hardest parts about owning a business, I think, for some people is to like step back and take a critical look about what is working and what isn't working with your business. And it's so hard because our business is so personal. It's like, people are always like,
Yeah.
oh, do you have kids? I'm like, yeah, I have two, my salon and my product line. Like, those are my children, right? Like, it's so deeply personal, your business, and it's so hard to separate. But you
Yeah.
have to be able to step back and go, okay, what if this was, I was consulting someone on their business under these circumstances? What would I tell them? And it's a lot easier to kind of realize, oh yeah, my referral program, yeah, maybe offering my client $5 is not really that motivating to them,
Right.
So
Right.
figuring out what's going to work and not being afraid to change it.
Yeah, and definitely. And then also that difference between having a referral program special for new client versus offering discounts all the time. There's a big difference between that too.
Offering discounts all the time just devalues your work, in my
Right.
opinion. So I'm not big on that. So the only discounts I ever have offered in the like however many years of doing lashes was just referral discounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
worth it to get that. If you have your ideal client and they're going to refer you another ideal client, it is worth that discount. But to just
100%.
offer it to random everyone all the time
Mhm.
is not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like when you're constantly offering discounts, you kind of end up with clients who only shop based on the discount you're going to give them. And it's really hard to turn those discount seeking clients into regular returning clients. And I try to stress to my students that we want to focus on those long-term returning clients, those loyal clients. That's really where we want to kind of focus our energy into attracting.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And just attracting the right client, because lash clients are generally, outside of discount seekers, they are generally quite loyal. And
Mm-hmm.
so taking the time to figure out who your ideal client is and trying to attract those clients will help, because you're going to be seeing these people every 3 weeks, possibly for years and years.
For years. We
You
become
know?
a part of each other's life. That's what one of
Yes.
the things that I really didn't anticipate when I got into lashing in 2012 was really like how much you become a part of your client's life and vice versa. And I think that's amazing. That's one of like the best parts of being a lash
Yeah.
artist.
I know, because you get to like connect with these women that maybe you would never come across on your day
Yeah.
to day. I feel like I've learned so much, like having conversations about just different topics of things and just different perspectives, and
Yeah.
getting to know these just different women
Yeah.
that's why I still see clients, because I love doing lashes too,
Mhm.
but I also just love that like relationship, that back and with the
Yeah.
clients too. Yeah.
Yeah. I also love getting to know other lash artists and trying to kind of build a little community of lash artists. Because in my area, there's lots of little salons and boutique salons and little private suites. And there's tons of lash artists in my area. And I know I'm probably in the beginning of my career. I really had to get myself to not feel like competition. I mean, you're going to feel we're human. You can feel like you're in competition, but there's a way to make it more of a friendly competition that inspires you to elevate and do better and grow. But getting to know other artists who maybe specialize in areas of lashes that you don't, and being able to refer clients back and forth to each other. You offer classes, you've got lots of students. What's some advice that you have new lash artists on building a little community of fellow lash artists?
I think that's such a great idea, Kelly, because lashing can be a lonely business.
Yeah.
We're in that little world of our clients' eyelashes, right? And other than that, it's like we come up and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, now the rest of the world's out there. And by the way, I have like 50 texts and emails and all this stuff to deal with. And it can feel lonely. Even when I had my salon, it felt lonely. It was like, we're so busy that none of us even had eyelash extensions. Right. We're all, we're just like trying to survive. We're doing so many clients. And so it can feel a little lonely. I think it is important to reach out to other lash artists. So if you're new, or even if you're not, take the reins, like start contacting, find some artist in your area whose work you believe in, whose work that you look up to and you respect, and contact them and tell them that. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Yeah. I can't imagine any artist not responding positively to that. And maybe arrange to go eat lunch or something someday and contact each other. I had great relationships with a couple other lash artists. Even when I had my salon and we had 7 lash artists, we still had to refer clients out because we were too busy. And so I'd rather send them to someone that's going to give that client a good experience than just send them out into the wind and like, good luck. You know?
I don't know. I don't know anyone else that does lashes. I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It actually shows you as the professional as well of like, this is how much I care about my business. Yes. I even would make a list. I had a list on our computer if new clients moved to town and they happened to have good lashes, which was rare. But if they did, I would get so excited. Like, you moved here from Seattle and you have beautiful lashes. Oh my God, who did your lashes?
Who's your artist?
I would get that information and I kept this log going. And so when our clients would be moving to other cities, I would be able to already have like this kind of outdated term, Rolodex of clients that I could send my clients to that were moving to other cities, or maybe they're going to go on vacation for 3 months somewhere. Well, guess what? I know a great artist there for you. It helps the client. It elevates me in my client's mind. It's like, oh my God, Sarah is really,
you're connected.
She knows everything about, And it's like, the more your clients trust you, the more loyal they are to you. And then it's also better they come back to you and they don't have insane lashes where you're like, oh God, they just casually like, oh, I got my lashes filled out of town and lay down. And you're like,
I always crack up when they're like, I cheated on you.
Yeah. And you're like, well, let's see what's going on in there.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Yeah. Putting the feelers out, not just in your community, but just nationally, internationally, like figuring out who does work that aligns with your style of work. Not just who does awesome mega volume or who does amazing Bordeaux lashes. Like, that's not my client anyways. So I need to know who's going to do work that would be comparable with mine. And I can refer clients to that. Yeah.
Now, how about when you are talking to your students about setting their prices? I know that it's real easy to, like I said, you want to compare kind of where you're at with what everyone else is charging, but is that really the best way to go about if maybe these other lash artists don't have the same client base that you have or that you're wanting to have?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So I don't think it's necessarily about comparing what other people are charging. I think it's good to be aware of what other people are charging in your town, but also kind of knowing, what do you want to charge? For me, when I was brand new, there was one other person doing lashes. At the time, we didn't have volume lashes. It was only classic, and she charged $250 in 2008. So I just knew I was not ever going to charge less than $250. It was like, okay, well, that's what I'm charging from the beginning. And so sometimes I just tell my students, okay, pick out like, who's the most expensive person in town? Okay, well, then there are women willing to pay that.
Right.
So figure out between where you are here and where you want to be with your pricing, what do you need to do to get there? And a lot of it is not lash skills, actually. Lash skills are important. If your retention is bad, then you're not going to keep high-paying clients, of course. Yes. But a lot of it is way more than lash skills. And sometimes, I'm sure you've experienced this, clients, they've moved to town and they're like, oh yeah, I had the best lash girl in town. And they lay down and it's like, they did not have the best lash girl in town. They did it. They thought they did because that lash artist was doing all these other things. Right. And so figuring out those other things that you need to do to give your client that experience while you're building your skills to become the best lash artist that you can be can already get you on that road to charging as much as you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So it can be a little intimidating when you first start out because, the lash artists everywhere. You don't want to get lost in the crowd and you want to set yourself apart. But how do you do that in the beginning? And you don't want to be the cheapest artist in town because then you're never going to make money for your business. And then do you have the skills to offer the highest in town? And like you said, it's more than just skills. It's the overall experience that you're bringing to that client and backing all that up.
It's so true. When it comes to lashes, I always suggest my newbies, you have to deliver on what your client is expecting. So I always tell my new lash artists, advertise or tell people that you do natural looking eyelash extensions, right? Noticeable but natural will be like a nice term that you could use, right? Something that if you're trying to attract clients that want mega volume and you've been doing lashes for 2 months, you're going to really struggle. So you have to kind of try to tap into that client that's scared of eyelash extensions, scared of the lashes that they see walking around on the street, right?
Right.
So you find those clients because those are the clients that you can, with your newbie skills, you can actually make those clients happy because they're looking undetectable, natural looking eyelash extensions. And so if you're new and that's what you can do, that's what you should be offering.
Yeah.
And you can offer more later, but start with that. So you're not feeling that pressure of like, oh, somebody's coming in off the street and they're expecting, some look that it's like, you don't have the skills to provide that. That's just not a good day.
Yeah, that's an uncomfortable position to be in.
But if you're tap into those mature women that are like, oh, I thought eyelash extensions were for the young girls and they're really dramatic. Tap into that market and show pictures of that kind of work. And that will really help you get people in the door that are going to be happy with the work that you are able to provide.
Now, how would you recommend, what are some good tips new artists can try to bring in new clients and reach new clients without having to depend solely on social media?
Yeah, social media can be tough for attracting clients. There's just too much out there. I don't know about you, but to me, like creating one nice social media post, I feel like it takes so long.
And I never know the algorithm. I don't.
Yeah, you're like, is anyone seeing this? I have no idea. Yes. So it's good to, obviously, you want to have a social media page. It serves as a nice portfolio of your work.
Sure,
but relying on that to build a clientele, I think, can be a little challenging. My best advice would be getting in contact with hairstylists, nail people, spray tan people, Botox people, anyone in the estheticians that are doing facial services that maybe you don't do. Anyone in the beauty industry that's doing other services, and you can tap into their clientele and then you can refer them clients back and forth and getting lashes on them, but make sure that they're seeing the type of clients that are your ideal client as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That was something that I did when very beginning, getting licensed, I moved across town. And lots of clients didn't want to also move across town, which is totally understandable. We've got our little travel bubble that a lot of us like to stick to. But that was one of the first things I did was I paid really close attention to the type of clients some of the hairstylists had, some of the nail techs had, and figured out who had that client base I was really shooting for. First thing I did was like, hey, are you open for a little tradey service? So I'll give you some eyelashes. You can cut my hair. We can kind of refer back and forth. And that really did work for me in the beginning because they're a walking advertisement for you.
Absolutely. And they have clients that are already kind of warmed up to the idea of beauty services. Yeah. So they're potentially going to be great lash clients for you as well. I think that's such a great way if you're new to a city or new to lashes to definitely tap into them.
Yeah. Yeah, word of mouth is still, even though social media plays a big part in how a client base is built now, there's still so much to be said about word of mouth and having that reputation and professional reputation to kind of back up that word of mouth. I think it's still just so important.
Yeah. And it's a long game, the reputation aspect of it, for sure. Like, it takes time. Like, you're not going to just be lashing for 2 months and you're going to have the reputation as the place to go for lashes. And there can be multiple places to go for lashes. It's not like you're like, oh, I have to vie for this like top position. That's not necessary. You can only see X number of clients a week anyways. So lash artists that are putting a lot of pressure on themselves, like, I understand you want to grow, but also aware that you don't have to have every woman in your entire city coming to you for lashes, because you physically can't do it. You just need a certain number of slots booked a week and focus on filling those with the quality of client that you're looking for.
Yeah. And what advice would you give an artist who they're not sure why they're not getting that client base that they're shooting for?
Yeah, that could be a couple things. So if they're just not getting them at all, like they're getting clients, but it's not the kind of client they're looking for.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to do, but like I've said many times, it's like your business is your baby, and it's so hard to take a critical look at it. So sometimes you might even need to have a friend help you, but someone who you think has a good eye, have them come look at your space. Look at your space and see, oh, what is it that I'm not seeing? There might be like, oh, there's a pile of boxes in the corner that you've been meaning to get to. That one thing isn't going to turn off a client. It's the whole thing. And it's so easy to have little blind spots of the way your business looks, the way you communicate with your clients, the way your website looks. All of those things need to encompass the experience for the ideal client. And sometimes it's hard to see that yourself. So getting someone to help you look at it, or if you can look at it with a critical eye and say, okay, what is it that's not really speaking to my ideal client, and just address those changes. It's actually not that, once you can do that, it's not that hard. The changes usually aren't difficult. It's finding what you need to change.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. For sure. It's hard when you put so much into creating something and then you sit back and you're like, well, why doesn't everybody else love it?
Yes, I know.
How do I make everyone else love it?
Yes, which you can do. I mean, there's something to be said for that too. There's definitely those people out there that are like fiercely, no, my entire business has to be 100% authentic. I'm going to have a Nightmare Before Christmas themed lash salon, and I need to find those people that want to come to that salon or whatever. There's people that can do that too. I'm not saying that there's not room for everything, but for me, I already knew, like, I wanted that luxury client that's willing to spend the money. And so just had to get in the mindset of what would attract them. It's not necessarily what I love, but it is what they would love.
Yeah. So much great advice. And I think it means even more coming from somebody who's been in the game for a long time and have seen the industry go through so many ups and downs and changes and trends. And I'm just really appreciative that you are here with me and joining us for this episode. Is there anything that the Lash Collection is working on? Any courses, classes, or anything like that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I do teach monthly classes at my academy here in St. Pete for eyelash extensions, Alibana lash lifts, and brow laminations. And then I just do one-on-one coaching with salons or lash artists where they're usually trying just about anything, but usually the niche is that, like, I'm trying to attract my ideal client, or I want to bring on staff. What do I need to do to get my business ready to bring on staff, right? Just anything that they need to help them grow their business in the direction that they want it to go. I've done that. And so I can help them. I'm that critical eye. I'm the one who's like, oh, okay, that shelf with that retail is, I don't think that's cutting it, like, and they want to hear that, right? They want to hear, like, what am I missing here? What am I not seeing? And so I can be that critical eye for people. And so that's a big part of what I love to just help people improve their business. But I will say, like, anyone listening, like, three things you could do right now to improve your business is, one, take that critical look at your business. What is it looking like? What does my website look? It needs to be updated. It's not so great. Make a punch list. These are the things that I need to do to get where I want to be. Mm-hmm. Number two, if you don't have a referral program, get one, figure out what it's going to be, and start asking your clients personally for those referrals. And number three, we didn't talk about this, but you got to get some Google reviews. So ask your clients personally for Google reviews. Make a Google business page if you don't have it. There's a way you can copy a link to send clients, put that into a note in your phone, ask your client personally for the review, and then when they leave, send them an advance thank you for leaving that review with the link to it. And that will make them feel like, oh, okay, yeah, I did tell her I would do that. And they don't forget as easily, and they will leave you that review much more often than not. So those are three things that I think any lash artist that's struggling right now to build can do. And then just keep doing it, like keep improving. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, but always strive to improve and just keep going. And eventually it happens. You put in the work and it will happen.
Absolutely. Don't give up. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all of that, Sarah. If anyone out there wants to contact you or find out more about your business, what's the best way for them to do that?
So they can go to our website, thelashcollection.com. That's where we have all of our products and training and Elibana products and the Lash Collection products. And then on social media, mainly it's just Instagram for me is pretty much what I do. So our Instagram is just at the Lash Collection.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for joining me all the way from Florida.
Yeah.
I really appreciate having you, making this connection with you. Thank you so much for joining. Any last words you'd like to say?
That's it. Just keep going, right? You got to just give yourself grace, but not give up, and just hold yourself to the highest standards. And I promise it just happens. Maybe you don't realize it. It's happening slowly. And then eventually you're like, you look back and you're like, wow, look how much I've done.
Yeah.
And don't forget to do that sometimes.
Yeah. Reflect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Cultivate Beauty podcast. We will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.